All right. Welcome to the April 21st, 2026 California Fish and Game Commission Regional Marine Protected Areas meeting. The first, agenda item 3F, petition 2023-23. Fantastic. Susan.
Yes, okay, great. This is, again, receiving a presentation from the petitioner regarding a series of proposals within Monterey Bay around the Monterey Peninsula, including several MPAs that are existing and one proposed MPA. And to provide the presentation, and thank you very much, Keith Rutzart. He's here, and thank you for your patience and making it to this, and for bringing the very interesting displays at the back.
You mean my parents?
Oh, and your parents.
Yes. Okay. I'll go ahead and start. Good evening. I got that right. Keith Rutzart from the Giant Kelp Restoration Project in Monterey. Next slide, please. Due to multiple stressors, the giant kelp forests of Monterey became urchin barrens, denuded of species. The Monterey Peninsula is ringed by marine protected areas that protected the sea urchins as they spread from Point Pinos into Monterey Bay and down the Big Sur coast. Next slide, please. We first petitioned the commission in 2017, but that was denied for Monterey. It's hilarious, isn't it? Well, I was only afforded the North Coast. We revised and resubmitted our petition in 2019, but that was denied. With giant public support in 2020, urchin culling at Tankers Reef became legal on April 1st, 2021 for 3 years, until it was canceled in 2024. We proposed expansion into MPAs in 2021, but that was denied. We first applied for a kelp restoration management permit in 2022, but that was denied. We worked with the department on a scientific collecting permit starting in 2022, but 2 years later that was denied. We applied for a decadal management review petition in 2023, which is what we are considering today. If everything goes perfectly, we could begin work in the fall of 2027, a decade after we first applied. We also petitioned for recreational use of our airlift tool, which you can see in the very back of the room, and to cull urchins in 10 coastal counties, but both of those petitions were denied in 2024. Next slide, please. So when we first arrived at Tankers Reef in April of 2021, there was an 8-acre kelp forest on the north side of the treatment area, which we helped to survive into adulthood. Next slide, please. After a year of culling urchins, we moved the kelp forest as the kelp spores spread to the southeast to make an 11-acre kelp forest in a former urchin barren. Next slide, please. Our plan was to clear the urchins for kelp spores to spread against the swell and expand our kelp forest by 8 acres. Next slide, please. However, when the commission sunsetted our project in April of 2024, our restored kelp forest was descended upon by urchins and reduced to just 2.3 acres. Next slide, please. Because we were forced to stop, sadly, our kelp forest is now reduced to only half an acre. Next slide. Our new method, this year we are expanding our efforts in a new regenerative fishery where we are harvesting purple urchins in a 92-acre shale benthos, land them at the Monterey Abalone Company, ranch them in the Monterey Harbor, and sell them at Fisherman's Wharf and beyond. Next slide. Our new method of harvesting is with our commercial airlift, which vacuums up the urchins into 300-pound baskets. This is 28 times more efficient than culling and allows us to collect the small urchins for composting, allowing more time between harvests. Next slide. Purple urchins are buttery, sweet, and nutty, and a reliable, secure source of protein in urchin culinary products. The uni scallop toast on the right there, it sells for $32. So this could be a profitable business solution. We can eat our way out of this problem. Next slide, please. Since our petitioning spree started, there have been many state and federal policy changes. The Ocean Protection Council 26 to 30 Strategic Action Plan, Objective 3.3, targets an aggressive kelp restoration management plan by 2027, and targets restoration of at least 2,000 acres of kelp forest by 2030. Next slide. The KRMP, the Kelp Restoration Management Plan, is a kelp restoration permitting framework that began in 2022. Implementation by the Commission has slipped to 2028, leaving only 2 years to go from minus 10 acres to plus 2,000 acres of restored kelp. Next slide. The MPA statewide leadership team work plan for 25 to 30. Goal 18 calls for a case-by-case determination for restoration in MPAs. Next slide. OPC funded development of an artificial reef program in 2024 and is paying $550,000 for Sea Grant to develop it. Next slide. OPC 30 by 30. By 2030, 30% of coastal water areas that are durably protected and managed to sustain functional ecosystems and both intact and restored and the diversity of life they support. At last count, the conservation inventory is 21.9% of the California coast. The 2,000 acres of kelp restoration sites needed higher levels of protection. Our proposed Sikilta SMR adds less than 0.5% to the inventory as a permanent experimental area. Next slide, please. I was chair of the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary Iconic Kelp Action Plan established in 2024. The plan originated from recommendations from communities of ocean users and researchers to address the regional loss and long-term health of kelp forest ecosystems in the sanctuary through education, coordination with partners, research, restoration, and community engagement. The department and OPC are seated on the advisory council and agreed to language to advance kelp restoration beyond the pilot scale. Next slide, please. We are not in Kansas anymore. During the decade of denial, ocean conditions have continued to deteriorate. Giant kelp was reduced to 4% of baseline in Monterey Bay, but the kelp in Carmel Bay is 57% better at 6.3% of baseline. Consumed by hordes of oceans, the kelp is transitioning from perennial giant kelp to annual bull kelp species. With the destruction of kelp foraging grounds, the endangered southern sea otter population is declining sharply. Marine heat waves are more often and more intense. It has been way too hot since September of 2025. Kelp loss is accelerating by agricultural nitrate pollution without kelp to uptake those nutrients. You can see in this graph the cold water upwelling lapping at the shore, finally modulating the temperature to within the normal range this March. But a super El Nino is forecast for May. Next slide, please. One of the DMR studies was the Where, When, and How, a guide to kelp restoration in California using spatiotemporal models of kelp dynamics, which determined the places around the peninsula where kelp restoration might be successful and should be prioritized. The highest priority sites are at Sikilta SMR, Edward F. Ricketts SMCA, Pacific Grove Marine Gardens SMCA, and Carmel Bay SMCA. Point Lobos was apparently not modeled. So next slide, please. Our petition 23 is to restore kelp in 3 SMCAs and 2 SMRs totaling 2,410 acres, less than 0.5% of statewide MPAs. They are designed around kelp forest and only extend 1/4 to 1 mile from shore. Next slide, please. To protect kelp, we propose to make the SMCAs protected as SMRs. Next slide, please. Our blueprint for kelp restoration in Monterey was incorporated by reference and updated in our petition to include recreational culling of urchins, baiting and trapping urchins, commercial harvest of purple urchins for urchin ranching, managing acid weed that slows urchin migration, removing invasive species of kelp and bryozoans, kelp planting and transplanting like was done previously in Southern California, kelp canopy management by pruning, like you would a fruit tree on land, and prohibiting fishing in overfished MPAs that endanger divers and confound research. Please note that the department did not evaluate the methods with an asterisk. Next slide, please. We also want to deploy artificial reefs where we can grow kelp on durable surfaces and reduce beach erosion, combating sea level rise on sandy beaches. One of the biggest difficulties in working underwater is knowing where you are. For that, we want to install seasonal buoys for wayfinding. At the commissioner's suggestion, we ask for an Adopt a Reef program so that restoration sites are exclusive for us as the long-term stakeholder. Next slide. We are petitioning for a new kelp restoration portal with a new permitting decision tree in the Department's scientific collecting permit portal that would allow for 10-year permits with guarantees of extensions if certain metrics of effort are met. Not in this petition, but after listening to tribal concerns, we recommend a similar portal for tribes and tribal community permits for subsistence and ceremonial purposes. The next slide. We heard objections from the Monterey Abalone Company because they were not allowed to harvest kelp in SMRs. Recreational fishers objected that once the SMCAs were changed to SMRs, they would not be able to get them reopened in the next DMR. To satisfy objections, we amended our petition in AM1 to leave 3 MPAs as SMCAs. We also aligned the language of our kelp restoration management permit with the state's kelp restoration management plan. To accommodate fishers, we amended to prohibit fishing only while a kelp restoration management permit was active. Next slide. However, the fishers still objected to prohibiting fishing in our small areas because they thought that a 10-year permit would be too confusing for anglers to know if a permit was active or not. So we are proposing in an unevaluated AM2 to make the SMCAs into SMRs as originally proposed, with the caveat that pruning kelp in SMRs be allowed by the Monterey Abalone Company by changing section 632A. Next slide, last slide. In conclusion, there are several pathways to kelp restoration for the Central Coast. The first is the yellow brick road we are currently on, fishing pathways outside MPAs, commercial take with an airlift, and recreational take of a mere 35 urchins per diver per day. The preferred restoration pathways in MPAs are our petition 23AM2, regulation change to allow permanent restoration activities in our highest value MPAs. The restoration management plan that would be implemented in 2028, long after the last remnant kelp forests disappear, and which will be silent on kelp restoration in MPAs. Another way is a restoration management permit, as we originally proposed in 22, which is under development and has never been used in the ocean. Finally, Dorothy, there is a permitting pathway called a letter of authorization that was available the whole time but never offered to us. Next slide. Last slide. Thank you. Cool.
Thanks, Keith. Susan, staff overview. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll pull up the slides. There's a couple slides on this one. And Keith did a very good job of outlining the individual aspects of this kind of package deal proposal that envisions quite a range of things. And so AGP, are you going to pull that up for us? Great. Okay. So yes, there are the map shows you the locations that have proposals associated with them, and individual actions proposed either within 4 MPAs or within 5 MPAs, including the proposed new MPA. In summary, of the 28, in summary, core items related to the MPA specifically are to establish a new state marine reserve in Monterey to allow, and I don't think that shows on the map, so it's just to the right of the peninsula MPAs, and to allow unlimited recreational urchin removal in 4 MPAs and allow commercial urchin harvest in the same MPAs. Next slide, please. Thanks. And then it's not, yes, so in a couple of cases, the department has assessed and determined that they are likely it's not necessary to develop regulation changes to allow for them. So the additional ones that are regulatory is prohibited. Now we've heard from the petitioner, but prohibit take of finfish when kelp restoration management permits are active within 3 MPAs, allow kelp management and restoration activities without a scientific collecting permit. And there are some other ones that are not listed here, but they are detailed in your meeting materials. And we just heard from the petitioner that for those 3 SMCAs, he wants to go back to the original proposal of state marine reserves. The department presented its evaluation for each of the proposed actions last week on Wednesday, and that, again, for those listening, the video is available. In one case, the department acknowledged and expressed support for the department and commission continuing to promote kelp restoration collaboration in outreach, public outreach, and on the website. And the recommendation for the other items is to deny those actions for the reasons that they highlighted during the meeting. And that's it.
Thanks, Susan. Commissioners, any questions for Keith or the department? All right. My understanding is we don't have any speakers who have seated time on this item. Is that right, Sherry or David? Yes. Sherry? Okay. And how many speakers do we have?
We have 26.
26. Okay. So let's call the speakers in the room up to the table. We want to hear what you have to say. If somebody else has already said what you want to say, feel free to echo those comments. Don't feel like you have to take the whole 2 minutes. You probably were expecting to have 1 minute, so that's perfectly fine if you do have 1 minute. But we also want to hear from new voices. We want to hear from people, especially if you've spoken many times today already and you want to say something substantially similar. It's okay to sort of echo what you've said in the past as well. With that, Shira, if you could call up the speakers that we have in the room.
Sure. Will Anupa Asokan, Art Seavey, Matt Bond, Neha Jans, and Cyrus Solteri please move up to the speaker table or the row of chairs directly behind it?
Hey everybody, it's Matt Bond again from All Waters. I want to take my time to appreciate Keith. Seriously, if I wanted to design a human being who cared about the ocean and had so many ideas how to fix it and so much passion and patience, he's the guy. When we wrote a letter saying that we didn't support his effort here, he sent me an email, and I felt bad because I really like what Keith does, and if we had more Keiths, the world would be a better place. And so I just would like to say that we do support the department's recommendations, but I hope that we can harness the powers of Keith for the Kelp Restoration Management Plan and about 1 million other things, because he's the type of person that we need to get this ocean where it needs to be. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cyrus Sultani. I'm a congressional campaign staffer, UC Davis political science student, and PADI dive master. I am here today with CalPERC students to speak about how fishing bycatch has caused extreme harm to our wildlife in Monterey Bay, California, where the expansion of protections may help avoid similar catastrophes. I have grown up on the California coast, where not only have I observed the damages done from climate change, such as the destruction of our kelp forests, but I have observed the damage from industrial fishing onto our marine life with my very own eyes. When I was 12 years old, I was fortunate enough to go whale watching, and what should have been a magical day, full of magnificence and wonder, has left me haunted ever since. We encountered a beautiful humpback whale, probably around 40 feet long, in the prime of its life. However, it had been horrifically tangled in industrial fishing gear, where it is highly unlikely that the whale survived. And although the state has made efforts, such as regulating crab season more thoroughly, whale entanglements and other marine life catastrophes have continued to rise in number, where our marine life suffers at the hands of exploitative industries. And I, like many of you in the room, seek to make a living on the ocean here in California. Yet we are unable to do so if we will not let the ocean live and thrive. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Neha Jans, and I'm a second-year political science student at UC Davis. I'm also the chapter chair of the UC Davis chapter of CalPERG students, and I'm here to speak in support of Petition 23. I'm from Merced, California, which is like nowhere near the ocean. My family rarely took trips to the ocean when I was a kid, so when we did, it made going to the beach that much more special. And when we did take these trips, we would oftentimes go to the Monterey Bay area. It didn't take me long to fall in love with the area and the ocean surrounding it. Ever since then, it's been my dream to live there. I have so many fun memories of running along the water with my sister and sitting on the sand, completely mesmerized by the waves crashing on the shore. To think that my children and all future generations might not ever see the beauty of these beaches if they aren't protected correctly is absolutely devastating. These areas are also home to so many amazing kelp forests that are massive carbon sinks. And these forests also house hundreds of species that will suffer if we continue not to protect them. So I urge you to support Petition 23. Thank you.
Hi, me again, Anupa with Fish On. I'll be quick. So to me, the science, the methodology, and the opportunity outlined here are more compelling than the rationale for the urchin allowances in Petition 14. But I just want to add that piers and jetties are essential for subsistence fishing communities in California, and while we would support enhancing protections to directly benefit pier and jetty fishing, I don't think I can support enhancing the protection at Ricketts without a continued exception for hook and line fishing on the north side of the breakwater in Monterey. I think that's really important to maintain. So if you choose to go forward with this proposal, I hope you'll consider that allowance. And just in general, Fish On's position for like artificial enhancements in the marine environment, I think with rare exception, we'd prefer to see more meaningful alternate conservation pathways and marine protections over artificial enhancements. So, thank you.
I'm going to try to be a little more efficient this time. And first of all, I want to support Keith, and I want to support what the first gentleman said about harnessing his power. However, I also want to say that I am very doubtful about the success of protecting kelp by the use of SMRs, just because we know that the urchins don't respect those boundaries, and once they're in there, how do you get them out? And that's the only way we know how to restore kelp. So I think I'll keep my remarks to that, and thank you very much.
Will Ella Herndon, Patrick Spalding, Casey Yip, Adrian Sedgwick, and Yara Munoz please move up to the speaker table or the seats directly behind it?
Hi, I'm Ella Herndon. I'm a sustainable environmental design student at UC Davis, and I'm here with CalPERG, and I would like to voice my support for Petition 23. As someone who grew up in the Central Valley, the Monterey Bay was one of my family's favorite places to go for day trips, and I loved seeing all the marine life and the creatures in the tide pools. As a college student, I got to come back for an educational field trip where I got to learn even more about the biodiversity and the ecosystem in Monterey, and as well as sketch the coastline. And I believe it's really important to preserve the biodiversity for the sake of public good, education, and the ecosystems themselves. The southern sea otter is endangered, and it's important that we protect the kelp forests that they use for hunting grounds and to shelter themselves from predation by great whites. And that's why I believe that you should support Petition 23. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Casey. I'm a fourth-year environmental policy student at UC Davis here with CalPERG. And I support petition 23 because I grew up in the East Bay area, and I would take small trips to Carmel Bay and Monterey County to get to experience the ocean and nearby beaches. Increasing marine protected areas and expanding state marine reserves would allow these areas and wildlife to continue to thrive and would support a healthier ecosystem for everyone to enjoy. Kelp restoration and conservation of biodiversity are very important to allow for over 800 species to thrive and support safe, profitable jobs that rely on the ocean ecosystem. Not only are these areas home to important wildlife, the bays are important to those who come from all over to visit and enjoy the ocean and scenic views that they offer. Additionally, I recommend supporting the part of the petition to strengthen the MPA network, but not necessarily supporting the part about urchin culling in our reserve.
Hello, Fish and Game Commission. This will be my last comment for the day. I am speaking in favor of petition 23 to reclassify several SMCAs as SMR and designate a new SMR in Monterey County. The ecology in Monterey is world-renowned, and treasures like Monterey kelp forests deserve to be protected as state marine reserves. Protections based on the beauty of the area are valid and precedented. We got terrestrial national parks protected because Thomas Moran's paintings of Yellowstone were presented to Congress, and they were so moved by the natural beauty of the area to protect it. Ecosystems in our terrestrial parks don't have to be broken to be protected, but are instead protected because they are rare, healthy, and beautiful. That principle should be applied to our marine protected areas as well. Given the well-documented threats to kelp forests, though, when healthy kelp is found, it must be preserved and encouraged to grow. However, I would like to speak out in moderate opposition to culling urchins in the area. While I support mitigation efforts to protect kelp forests and recognize that we must prevent urchin barrens, I would like to encourage caution when taking steps to directly influence the marine food web, because anthropocentric changes can cascade out of control and influence the health of the entire food chain. Again, I remind you of our threatened California's southern sea otters who prey upon the urchins and rely upon them as their preferred food source. Because the situation requires balance and not complete urchin eradication, I am concerned about the lack of requirement of scientific collection permits. I urge the Fish and Game Commission to strengthen environmental protections along our beautiful California coastline. Please act in accordance with codified environmental law like the Endangered Species Act, the Marine Life Protection Act, the Marine Mammal Protection Act, and the 30 by 30 statute. The public and future lawyers like myself are watching. I urge you to preserve our priceless coastal ecosystem and increase protections for MPAs. Thank you for listening to my comments today, and thank you very much for your time and consideration. It has been a pleasure.
Hello, my name is Yara, and I'm a first-year student at UC Berkeley here with CalPERG, and I'm here to speak on Petition 23. We support the strengthening of marine protected areas and expanding state marine reserves. We are concerned about the impact of sea urchin culling, and I'd like to second Adrian's point about that. Our state reserves are the backbone of our ocean protections, and it's vital to the MPA network that we uphold their protection. My fellow members of CalPERG and I have spent hours every week tabling and speaking to students across campus about the importance of marine protections. We were able to gather thousands of members at UC Berkeley in support of ocean protections, and today students across UC Davis, UC Santa Cruz, and UC Berkeley are here representing the thousands of students who care about keeping our oceans healthy and sustainable for our future. Thank you.
Sherry, who's next?
I had called Patrick Spalding. Next, we have Bob Rutzart, Timothy Fuller, Scott Parsons, Stephen Pachetti, Brian Taniguchi, and Kayleen Wynn.
Come on up. So purple is a family color, Mr. Rutzart, is it? Yeah, I got it. Okay. Yeah, if you want to press the button and then we can hear from you.
Okay, my name is Bob Rutzart. Keith's my son, and I just hope that a lot of people like him have dedicated so much time and effort into restoring the kelp in Monterey Bay. And when he first started this, I saw a lot of pictures of how the urchins were eating all the kelp, and how they was destroying everything, and everybody was, the fishing was, when they started hitting the kelp, the urchins, the fish were just going crazy, eating all the remains. But I see a lot of people are against culling the urchins, but now they have this new device that's going to collect them. So now they're not killing things, but they're collecting things. So maybe that'll help. And so maybe the sea otters will have a better chance of surviving in the kelp now that they can restore a lot of the kelp. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Timothy Fuller. I'm a marine naturalist, and I have a background in ecological research from the Monterey Peninsula. Thank you so much for making time for this today. I wanted to start out by reminding everybody, of course, that kelp forest health is in decline, so we kind of need to be proactive about stuff. So I certainly appreciate that people are seriously considering all sorts of measures and petitions like this one today. I'm in favor of petition 23. For multiple reasons. It really does a good job for getting that proactivity out there, establishing artificial reefs, and helping establish heightened propagule pressure, so there's more spores for kelp to be able to disperse in a marine environment. But one thing I'm actually a huge supporter of is the urchin culling and harvesting, and for a couple of reasons. One thing is most, actually about all the scientific models I was seeing or for looking at kelp forest simulations, that the really quick way to kelp forest bolstering was by, urchins are the biggest influence for how kelp forests are modeled in ecological systems right now. So by adjusting the herbivory for the urchins gives kelp the greatest opportunity to at least recover to healthy numbers. And I totally understand the caution people have for removing and culling urchins, but unfortunately the urchins that are out there right now, of course I'd like to remind people, are starved urchins. They don't have any food right now, and so they're in a zombified state where not even sea otters are really going to go for them. And sea otters actually go for a lot of more nutrient-rich sources like abalone and mussels and stuff like that. So there's plenty of food for everyone, and the harvesting, of course, is a really nice aspect because it can also boost local economy for not just fertilizers, but once we start getting healthier kelp forests, then we also have healthier sea urchins that could also provide economic support. And yeah, I also just like that these petitions are allowing for commercial fishing as well. And coming from a background as a spearfisher for the last several years, I'm a fan of making sure that we can also get harvestable elements from the ocean as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, commissioners and department staff. My name is Brian Taniguchi, and I'm a concerned recreational diver, and I was first certified in Monterey in the 1970s, so I've seen a lot happen over that time. I also wanted to first also comment that it's great to see so many young people involved in this process. I think that's wonderful. Thank you for recognizing that the declining health of our kelp forests is a serious issue and for authorizing the development of the Kelp Restoration Management Plan. It's clearly a difficult challenge to develop a balanced plan that addresses the competing interests of diverse groups. But that plan has been in development for several years, and it may not be available until 2027 or later. It seems the Commission and Department are risk-averse and reluctant to take much restorative action without guidance from the plan. While this may seem wise from an academic perspective, time is not on our side, and in the context of time, inaction is a form of action. Ironically, the lack of timely action in the face of an existential crisis seems counter to the department's goal of adaptive management. So until the plan is available and implemented, it seems prudent to permit some mitigating measures, even if they're not perfect, to aid in the survival of kelp forests and their vibrant ecosystems. Please do not let the pursuit of perfection be the enemy of good. Many concerned citizens are eager to help with restoration efforts. They could even help develop tools for the restoration plan toolkit or test those that are being considered. Within the realm of your mandate and authority, please suggest what intervening actions we can take now and how we can gain your support. Let's save this resource for the benefit and enjoyment of current and future generations. Let's begin acting before restoration becomes more difficult or even impossible. Thank you for the opportunity to comment and for your attention.
Sherry, who else do we have? If we have other people in the room?
I called all the speakers. We have Scott Parsons, Steve Pachetti, and Kayleen Nguyen left.
Okay.
Hi, my name is
Are they there?
Kayleen. Oh, sorry. My name is Kayleen. I'm here to speak on Petition 23. I'm a third-year student at UC Berkeley studying urban studies and environmental studies, and I have been in CalPERG since my freshman year, participating in numerous campaigns and even lobbying in Sacramento. CalPERG represents over 25,000 students across all the UC campuses, and we've been working to expand marine protected areas since even before I started college. In fact, I even remember giving a public comment to the Fish and Game Commission on really similar issues on Zoom 2 years ago. Like many others, I grew up visiting Monterey, Carmel, and Pacific Grove areas throughout my life. And I have many fond memories of basking in the beauty of the ocean, having fun on the beach with my family and friends, and observing the diversity of ocean wildlife. In fact, kelp forests in Monterey are home to over 800 different species, including some endangered species like the South Sea otter. And kelp forests are also very important carbon sinks. Therefore, preserving the wildlife and biodiversity that survive in this area while they are still healthy and before it's too late is crucial to ensuring that these highly well-loved regions that are important to everyone will continue to thrive for future generations. I support strengthening the protections by having more marine reserves because reserves are the backbone. Thank you.
Sherry, we don't have anyone else at the table, so I think if we can move to our Zoom speakers, please.
Sure. Our first Zoom speaker is Brian Simka, who was pre-approved for a video.
Thank you, everybody. Brian Simke here, owner of Monterey Expeditions, a small ocean tour company. And yeah, hoping we could play that video if possible.
Today I'm taking you with me on a cleanup dive at San Carlos Beach. I'm bringing a line cutter and a mesh produce bag. So I got in the water and I dropped down and I immediately found a ton of line, lead weights, lures, and also hooks. So I got to work untangling the line. I have to be really gentle and patient to avoid tearing out the algae or damaging the life that lives on the rocks. So I just go really slow, and honestly it's really meditative. On these dives, I'm usually in less than 15 feet of water the entire dive. All of this ghost gear comes from the shore fishermen at this site, and while I'm a big supporter of catching your own food, I think that there are far better places to do it. The site is the most popular dive site in Monterey, if not the country. It has a ton of kelp and also a rock wall that goes down to 45 feet, where a line gets caught really easily. When I started reeling in this line, I had no idea what was at the bottom of it, and it turned out to be a rockfish that had been caught and died on the line. And this was super sad because these fish can live for decades, and they're actually really beautiful when you see them alive and swimming around. So after about 70 minutes, my bag was full, and I was getting really cold in the 55-degree water, so I enjoyed the swim in with sunlight streaming through the kelp and all of the critters that were out and about. I really love this site. I've been diving here since 2013, and I hope someday it will be free of fishing gear. So if you want to join me on my next cleanup dive, you can come out on March 15th. Monterey Expeditions will be hosting a community cleanup dive and also a cookout right after. So hopefully I'll see you there.
Thanks for doing that work. That was really neat to see.
It's our pleasure. Not sure if we have any more time to talk. I think the video kind of sums it up, but if we have time, we'd love to say a few things about it.
I think you have 20 seconds if you want to say anything in summary.
Perfect. Yeah, it's just really important to highlight what people don't see under the surface. So as divers, we kind of have that privilege, and we feel like we need to share what most people don't get to see. So there is tons of tackle. Melanie Moreno's pulled out 500 pounds of fishing lead over the past maybe 7 years. We've pulled out over 70 pounds of lead sinkers in just a year of these cleanups. So it is a concern and something that we are going to continue to do.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Claire J., go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Claire Johnson. I am a scuba diver from Oakland, California, and I've been diving in Monterey for the last 10 years. I unfortunately only was able to participate in the G2KR experiment back in 2023 at Tankers Reef. I got certified to be a kelp restoration diver 1 month before the experiment was unfortunately stopped. And I just want to say I'm in strong support of this proposition. I saw with my own eyes in that experiment the impact that culling could have, the positive impact that culling had on the kelp forests in the area. And I think I at first was someone very adverse. As a diver, you're told never touch anything underwater. I'm sure everybody here knows. But this just showed that humans have driven climate change to this point that we're having this problem, and now humans need to help fix it. And I also really want to echo the sentiment of the speaker, I'm sorry I didn't catch the name, but who said we shouldn't let perfection be the enemy of good. I think, as we've seen with Keith, there has been an extreme amount of iteration and perseverance. I want to highlight the perseverance in the face of constantly being told no, without really what appears any alternatives given, except to wait for this this hypothetical plan. And I think as we are all feeling with this current marine heat wave, we can't keep waiting. Even if there are solutions, it seems like you all are super collaborative and really willing to work on compromise. If there is anything we can do to just get started and help improve, we have willing people and we have willing plans and we have things that we know work. So again, just thank you, everybody. Thank you, Keith. And yeah, thank you all for this opportunity.
Chris Bragg, go ahead, please.
Thank you. My name is Chris Bragg. I'm a recreational fisherman. I enjoy fishing all up and down the coast of California. And I appreciate you allowing for the public comments here. I feel that the Department of Fish and Wildlife recommendations are very acceptable and that they were clearly made with the previously agreed upon rules of engagement. I recognize and respect the determination of the Commission Department staff, and I stand behind the established process for informed decision-making regarding petitions. I believe in factual and science-based management of resources, and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife recommendations were made on just exactly that. I hope and I encourage the Commission, and I hope you guys adopt the recommendations that were made. And thank you for the opportunity to comment, and thank you for your involvement in this process.
Megan Davis, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Megan Davis, and I'm a student at UC Berkeley, and I've been a volunteer with CalPERG students for the past 2 semesters working on the Protect the Oceans campaign. I'm also a certified conservation diver and an inspiring wildlife conservationist. I'll be speaking in support of Petition 23. I've admired the ocean for as long as I can remember. After moving to the Bay Area in 2014, I now consider it to be my home. The ocean is such an important part of our ecosystem and supplies over 50% of the air that we breathe, and this is largely due to healthy kelp forests. I've been to Monterey Bay multiple times over the past few years and love to go whale watching and always get so excited when I see any type of marine animal. I feel so much happiness when I spot the mist from a whale's blowhole in the distance, or an even bigger excitement seeing their flukes, heads, or fins poking out of the water. It would be devastating if they were no longer here due to human actions. Healthy kelp forests give whales and sea otters protection from predators and a place to forage for food. We have a chance now to make a difference by expanding MPAs to help these unique animals survive. Many students involved with CalPERG came here to show their support and wore t-shirts with hand-drawn whale on them. This was actually drawn by one of our volunteers to honor these beautiful animals and to give them a voice. I urge you to say yes to Petition 23 to protect whales and other marine life and their habitat so that they can thrive for many years to come, and we as humans can also thrive. Thank you.
Dave Kolker, go ahead, please.
Hello, once again, Dave Kolker here from the Ventura County Commercial Fishermen's Association. I'd like to comment on this petition 2023-23. While I support and we support the goal of kelp restoration, this petition proposes expanding and redesignating marine protected areas without providing sufficient socioeconomic analysis or clear scientific justification. There's no meaningful evaluation on how these closures will impact fishermen and what happens when access is reduced and effort becomes concentrated into smaller areas. This increased pressure can lead to unintended environmental and economic consequences which are not addressed. Additionally, the restoration methods described, such as urchin removal and kelp outplanting, can be pursued without permanent closures. Expanding MPAs without clear evidence that it's necessary or effective is premature. The petition also introduced complex new regulatory and permitting frameworks that will require additional resources to manage and enforce. Noted here is the disregard for the commercial sea urchin diver and said permit. Opening the access up to recreational mixes recreation and commercial rules and laws and doesn't make sense, especially when there is a commercial aspect to it on the back end. I respectfully urge the commission to deny this petition. Thank you very much.
Maxine and Bob Halem.
Yeah, this is Bob Hallam. I have been involved with Keith and the G2KR project since well before 2022 when we were first doing our experimentation at Lover's Point. When we began on Tankers Reef, I am one of the few certified instructors, and one of the requirements for urchin colors was that they be certified, and they all hold a kelp restoration diver certification from PADI or NAUI. Over the last 2.5 years, I have personally certified in excess of 100 divers for that function. They are there because they are interested in kelp restoration. Having done this, it was incredible to see how effective the culling of urchins at Tankers Reef was. We went from an urchin barren to a lush kelp forest in just over 1.5 years. We started with no otters, and we would frequently go out there once the forest was established, and we would see 6 and sometimes more otters in the kelp that we had personally, or at least we claimed to have done. We took the urchin barren from dozens per square meter to 1 or 2 per square meter. And it took fairly intense diver participation, but we had the support from the Monterey Bay diver community, and that would continue. I think that it's important that we be allowed to cull in many areas. Tankers Reef, at least give us back our Tankers Reef culling permission so that we can reestablish the Tankers Reef kelp forest. So it will provide the spores that might someday be able to repopulate the rest of Monterey Bay. Thank you very much.
Rick McPherson, go ahead, please.
Thank you, commissioners. I just want to echo what was mentioned a few speakers ago by Mr. Taniguchi, who pointed out the abundance of young voices today in this very long meeting. And I just want to underscore that. It's so encouraging to hear and see so many young people involved in this debate. I'm Rick McPherson, a recently retired ocean conservation biologist with nearly 40 years of research, education, and management experience, much of it in the California kelp forests, and I support Petition 23. My overarching statement is that the rules that were created to protect the ocean no longer reflect today's reality. Kelp forests have tipped into urchin barrens, systems stuck in a feedback loop that prevents recovery. These systems don't recover incrementally. Urchins have to be reduced below a threshold for kelp to return, and waiting for that to happen naturally can take decades if it happens at all. I recognize that managing multi-use coastal resources is complex. This requires weighing the costs and benefits of allowing focused extraction within an MPA. But this is not traditional extraction. This is targeted restoration to restart a stalled system. MPAs were designed to allow ecosystems to rebound when pressures are removed, but that assumes ecological relationships are intact. At Tankers Reef and other sites in the petition, they are not. Unchecked urchins have locked the systems in a degraded state. Kelp can't reestablish, recovery is stalled. This petition offers a bounded, community science-based intervention. Hundreds of trained divers are ready to reduce urchin densities and give kelp a chance to recover. This is a proof of concept for restoring function, not weakening protection, and it's a model that can be exported and scaled elsewhere. Doing nothing is not neutral, it selects for continued loss. I thank you for listening to my points.
Chloe Mitchell, go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm Chloe Mitchell, and I'm a 14-year-old scuba diver who dives in the waters around the Monterey Peninsula. I'm talking today because I'm very concerned about the loss of great kelp forests and what that means for the ocean for my generation and generations to come. When I dive, I can clearly see the difference between a healthy kelp forest and an urchin barren. Places that used to be full of life, such as fish, sea stars, and kelp waving in the current, and are now often empty and covered with sea urchins. It is sad and alarming to see this happening underwater, especially in places meant to be protected. This is why I strongly support Petition 2023 in 2023 MPA, which focuses on restoring giant kelp forests all around the Monterey Peninsula, including in protected areas. I believe restoration is necessary when ecosystems are clearly in danger and cannot recover on their own. Giant kelp forests are important because they provide homes for marine animals, help protect our coastline from waves, and support fishing and tourism. As someone who spends time underwater, I want future divers and everyone else to be able to experience healthy kelp forests, not just hear about them in the past, and not just hear them in the past. I'm so passionate about protecting the giant kelp forest, and I worked with the Giant Kelp Restoration Project as my Eagle Scout project. I created the display, which is being used today at your hearing to educate the public about methods to control the overpopulation of urchins. This foundation has shown its methods worth to restore the giant kelp forest and should be allowed to proceed with their restoration efforts. Thank you for listening to my concerns and considering action to help restore these important ecosystems. I hope you support this petition and help protect the future of our ocean. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Chloe. I love everything that you're doing. Thanks a lot for sharing it with us.
Jim Russell, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Jim Russell. I live in Watsonville between Santa Cruz and Monterey. I'm an avid spearfisherman and kayak angler, and for the past 20 plus years, I've spent a lot of time diving and fishing all over the Monterey Peninsula. I'm also a longtime member of multiple kayak angling and spearfishing groups that are active in the area. I'm speaking today to oppose 2023-23 MPA, which would effectively ban nearshore fishing and spearfishing from the entire north side of the Monterey Peninsula by converting 3 existing SMCAs into no-take SMRs. I have had countless positive spearfishing and fishing experiences in these SMCAs, and they represent some of the most accessible areas for shore and kayak-based angling and spearfishing in the entire county. Converting them to SMRs would drastically limit the fishing opportunities in the area and increase the pressure in the very few remaining open nearshore areas. Additionally, I feel strongly that spearfishing and fishing in these areas do little to no damage to the kelp forest that the proposal is supposedly protecting. The author of the proposal has said that there are limited opportunities and poor fishing in these SMCAs, and that his proposal would have minimal impact on fishermen. I believe the author is wrong, and I do not feel that he has any concern or consideration for the impact closing these areas to fishing would have on the spearfishing and angling communities. Please deny this proposal and preserve our access to the angling and spearfishing opportunities that many of us cherish in the Edward F. Ricketts, Pacific Grove Gardens, and Carmel Bay SMCAs. Thank you.
Omar Aljundi, go ahead, please. Omar Aljundi, go ahead. You need to unmute. Your microphone will be at the, there you go. Go ahead, please. I can see your Zoom microphone is unmuted, but your computer microphone might be muted. Commissioner Murray, this is our last speaker who indicated they wanted to speak while the queue was open.
Thank you, Sherry. And thanks to everyone, Keith, family, all speakers. Yeah, thanks for being here. Commissioners.
I just want to, a couple things. Thank the department for their evaluation of this petition. It's a really lengthy evaluation. I'm like rereading because I couldn't, of course, hold on to all the different parts, but you know, it's just a huge lift, and I really appreciate your taking such a close look at each part of this. I want to applaud Keith's dedication to this place he's stewarded for so long. Thank you, Keith. I know this area because it's where my daughter learned to dive, and yeah, I think it's just like in discussing a previous petition from Keith, I said, I think there's a place for local stewardship, like even if the action is not addressing the problem at scale, and, you know, but it's addressing it really locally. I still believe that. That's like another part of how people form bonds with a place. And Keith, you've just been really patient and persistent and constructive. And I thank you for that. The department raises a lot of concerns. I don't need to walk through all of them, but I just want to, you know, note that some of the concerns are they're basically insurmountable, things that would require legislative action, things that would like dramatically alter the existing time frame attached to scientific collecting permits, enforcement challenges that seem insurmountable. So I do think that like we've got to walk through and look at all of these pieces one by one and just, you know, at some level ask even whether some of these are in our purview. The decadal management review also is, you know, pretty specific and clear that doing restoration within marine protected areas is something we'd like to sort of like grow, but it requires a framework first. We need the framework before we can make specific case-by-case decisions. And so, you know, the kelp restoration management plan is coming relatively soon. I hope there's a place in it for small-scale localized restoration by people who are connected to specific places, and we don't have it yet. The department did support Action 28 in the amended petition to promote kelp restoration collaboration on the commission's website, the department's website, and our public outreach. I support that too. I think it's great that there's like something in there that is easy to do. It's really aligned with our goals, and kelp forest decline is a big challenge in California since that marine heat wave. So like we're all on the same page about how important that is to do something about. Yeah, that's all I'll say.
Vice
right now.
President.
Thank you.
You know, I'm an appointee, like many of you, of Gavin Newsom, and one thing that Gavin Newsom, along with his Lieutenant Josh Friday, did was about community activism and volunteerism. And I just want to say, Keith, as an appointee of this governor, keep up your hard work. I hope we can find something, Commissioner, that will allow Keith to go ahead and do the work that he's so passionate about, and he obviously is so committed to. So, thank you.
Yeah, I also want to thank Keith. Yeah, you know, you showed that picture of you with short hair. That's real. You have the receipts, right? And we see you trying to come at this in lots of different ways, and we can see what your goal is, right? Your goal is kelp, right? Healthy kelp. And I think tending and this, you know, local stewardship, it's something that makes sense to me too. Like, this petition is complicated. It has there's a lot going on. I'm not prepared to, you know, say anything decisional today, but there's a lot going on with this petition. Is this the right way to get at some of your goals? We're going to keep talking about that. But, you know, one thing that I do see, even just today, we've seen at least 3 different ways to get at this idea of, you know, healthy kelp, restored kelp. There's just so much energy around it, and it's been a topic we've been talking about really much of the day today in several of the petitions, and I see that energy and I see that desire, and I think we all share that goal, which is kelp doing better along our coastline. The KRMP is much awaited, eagerly awaited. We are all excited to see it, and I guess I'll just leave it at that and just, say thanks. We see you trying lots of different ways. We see everyone who has many of the petitioners today also efforting in a similar direction. But Keith Stad, yes. More Keiths. Well, that's on you, right? You made the first one. I don't know. Okay. Okay. Commissioners, anything else on this petition? All right.